Let's talk about daily self-compassion and how hard this can actually be for women and women who are managing a home and women who have kids and women who are taking care of people in any kind of capacity in their life. So often we miss the component of daily self-compassion and why that matters. Let me share a quick story. I'm a mom of 4. We also have a medically complex kiddo who we are constantly working to figure out how to best support. And in the process of learning the different needs of all of my kids, I've learned the hard way what happens when I'm not actually showing myself some level of compassion. I truly am my own worst critic. And I know women really struggle with this. We beat ourselves up. We talk through ways we're falling short in our heads. We don't always give ourselves grace for when we don't do things well. And it can become this spiral of not really treating ourselves with the respect that we deserve. And I know as a mom of 4, I've really experienced this on pretty intense levels, especially in the beginning of really trying to figure out all of our kids' individual needs and how to best support them. I would feel absolutely terrible not being able to meet the needs in the way that I had envisioned. And when I didn't, I would truly beat myself up. And I wasn't compassionate enough. And I wasn't focused on really nurturing me the way I know I needed to in order to continue to show up as the mom, the wife, the friend, and so much more that I've wanted to and that I really crave to in my daily life. And so what is self-compassion in a nutshell? When we talk about this concept of daily self-compassion, what does that mean? In simple terms, it means treating yourself like you would a friend. So often we have soundtracks in our heads that we would never say to someone else. And even so, there's probably soundtracks that we have in our heads that we don't even say out loud because they may be that cruel or they may be tearing us down to that significant degree. And so we really want to think about this idea of self-compassion as, how are we treating our friends? How would we treat a friend? What would we say to a friend if they messed up in some way, if they felt like they fell short, if they were beating themselves up or being their worst inner critic for some reason? What would we share with them? What would we say? This is such an important conversations for moms to have because you are juggling a lot. You're in high pressure situations, whether that's in work, with your family, with your marriage, with your relationships. We all have stress in our life. We all have things that we are working through and managing on a daily basis, mentally and emotionally. And in order to really effectively manage that, we have to practice this idea of self-compassion. And we really have to get into this place of doing this daily. It has to be a daily decision. With this concept of embracing compassion and showing yourself this level of love, it helps you very significantly on your wellness journey. It supports your nervous system. It gives you more clarity in your brain. It encourages you to continue to move forward because you're finally giving yourself the grace you need and deserve for your life. And so I wanted to talk about this really important topic today because it's so easy to not always notice how we may be tearing ourselves down and how important this is if we want to continue to press forward on our wellness journey and in our life journey in a way that feels grounded and fulfilling, energetic, and so much more. And most of all, that's filled with love in a way that we personally deserve for all of the ways that we show up in our daily lives for so many people. And we have to show up for ourselves the same way, right? We have to show up for ourselves the same way. So what can you do to actually start to practice more daily self-compassion? What does that look like from a habit standpoint? What does that look like from a recognition standpoint and so much more? And so I want to kind of talk through some of the things that I've been starting to implement and cannot recommend enough. The first is more nervous system work. And this is really making the choice to pause before you actually move into an action, before you actually move into thoughts that turns into feelings, that turns into words, before you actually say something to yourself, learning how to pause. I'm actually going through a program right now called Primal Trust, where I'm learning a lot about brain retraining and somatic work and the power of breath work and how that can really help us with nervous system, regulating emotion, regulating feelings, and getting ourselves out of soundtracks that do not help us feel good and do not actually help us heal and move forward in our life. And so one of the things that I've been learning inside of this program is the power of the pause and the power of actually stopping when you hear your inner critic or you hear the loops in your head that are either ruminating or worrying about the future. That's often what's happening with our soundtracks. We're ruminating on the past or we're worrying about the future. And in those soundtracks, we're often our inner critic, beating ourselves up in some way or thinking about how we're not going to measure up for something that might be coming up in the future. There are all these things that our brain says to us that aren't actually reality. So many of the things that we actually think are stories that our brain has somehow made up for whatever reason. And so it is our job to figure out how to consciously stop those loops and actually pause the inner critic and figure out ways to move beyond the ruminating or the worrying. And so what I've learned to do is start to replace my negative thoughts or those ruminating loops with breath work, very strategic and specific breath work. I've also learned to replace those thoughts with more compassionate, supportive self-talk and giving myself way more grace. And that's something that we as busy moms and women need to do. We are not supposed to have it all figured out. We do not need to have all of the information organized all the time. That's not realistic. And the fact that we even have that expectation just speaks to how inflated our sense of reality really can become when we're overly focused on the messaging of what we should be doing. What we should be doing is making sure that we're taking care of ourselves while we're taking care of everyone else in our life. And one of the most important things to do as we're taking care of ourselves is really practicing this idea of being compassionate. We have to build grace into our programming. We have to build more cues into our life that remind us of how we need to pay attention to what we actually say to ourselves every single day. I use a lot of physical cues. Personally, I use sticky notes. I use planners. I have reminders in my phone. I have reminders that show up on my watch. I have backgrounds on my phone and things like that that also help me remember what I'm focusing on and how I want to continue to give myself grace. I use pictures often, pictures of my family, pictures of, places that bring me peace, places that have made me feel really good about where I'm at and what I'm doing in my life. And those visual reminders can be so powerful and triggering our brain into remembering the importance of positive self-talk and showing ourselves compassion and showing ourselves grace for the journey that we're on. When we practice daily self-compassion, there's real life benefits attached to that. We have a better mood. We have better energy. We're able to show up better for others and for ourselves. We have more resilience. We're able to really feel like we can continue to figure out how to push forward through hard things. Mostly because we start to embrace the imperfection of how life truly goes. In this same sense is we learn how to show ourselves respect, just like we show respect for other people. I want you to remember that daily self-compassion is, in a nutshell, how you would treat a friend, what you would say to a friend, how you would encourage a friend. And we live in a world where it's very easy to adopt narratives and to adopt information and to start to translate stories in our own heads about the reasons that maybe we're not enough, or maybe we're falling short, or maybe we need to be better at something. And instead, we need to continue to challenge ourselves to pause, stop those loops of ruminating or worrying, and figure out ways to use intentional breath work, to replace negative self-talk with better, more supportive, loving self-talk, and above all, embracing the imperfection of the learning that we're also going through. I'm a 42-year-old mom, and I've been on this planet, obviously, for 42 years. And sometimes I don't give myself enough credit or permission to embrace that I am still learning every single day. That's something that we have to remember as well. Even as adults, we are still learning new things every single day. Every single day, there's new learning, there's new growth, there's new adversity, there's something new we're trying to manage or figure out or troubleshoot. We are trying to meet the needs of our kids and our families. We're trying to figure out the next season we're in. We're trying to navigate so many different layers to this life. And in that, really giving yourself grace through the learning is an incredible gift. It's one of the most important things we can do on our wellness journey because we're never going to have it all figured out. There's always going to be something that we're learning through, growing through, stumbling through, or that we have to figure out how to be better at. That doesn't mean anything about us. It simply means that we're growing and learning as we do along our human journey. And so practicing self-compassion through that is truly the key to reminding you that you are deserving and wonderful and beautiful just as you are. And overall, we can work together on this piece of self-compassion through sharing about our journeys, like I am right now, and through talking about how important this is as we take care of our wellness from the inside out. If you haven't recently, take some time to show yourself some compassion today and start to create it into a habit every single day. And when you feel those soundtracks come up and you hear that inner critic, flip the script. Start focusing more on how you can talk more kindly to yourself, how you can use strategic breathwork or visuals to help remind you of switching into something more positive. And above all, showing yourself the same love and care that you so freely give to everyone else. It is crucial for our wellness, especially when it comes to mental and emotional well-being. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I know balancing time and energy can be a challenge, and I'm so proud of you for listening in and investing in your wellness journey. I feel incredibly grateful to connect with you and for the opportunity to share more knowledge, stories, and encouragement related to all things wellness. I would love to hear how this podcast has served you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review on either iTunes or Spotify. Your support truly means the world to me and helps me reach more women just like you and me who are looking to transform their health from the inside out. Plus, when you share this episode with a friend, we invite more women in to learn alongside us. What a gift. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better we can do. For ourselves, for our families, and our future. Well done on taking the step towards a healthier, happier you. Until next week, stay empowered and stay well.